Today, July 18th, Mercury is retrograde and it will last until August 11th. So Mercury goes back from 15 degrees of Leo all the way to 4 degrees of Leo. And this is going to impact a lot of signs, especially the fixed signs. So if you have anything, of course, in those degrees between 4 and 15 degrees of Leo, this is very, very important for you. But also 4 and 15 degrees of Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus. What is the planet Mercury about? Well, it's the closest planet to us, so that's why these retrogrades are so impactful. Mercury, which is actually Hermes, Mercury is the Roman name, but the Greek name is Hermes, wrote the Emerald Tablets. So from Hermes we have Hermetism, and in Hermetics it is all about as above, so below, as with is out, is within. And so everything is connected. The microcosm within you is directly related to the macrocosm around you. This is why the cosmos, astronomy, astrology affects us right here. We're all in it together. We're all interconnected. And so actually this principle comes from Mercury himself. So this is really, really relevant. This is why, again, Mercury retrograde is so strong. I mean, we all feel it. This is what got astrology really popular actually a couple of years ago, because everybody understood the Mercury retrograde because we had proof, right? Things were going really haywire. You can notice Mercury retrogrades easily. So, but what is Mercury itself about? Like I said, it's also Hermes, and that means it's the messenger. It is about communication. It brings in the information. So it's what you speak out, it's what you hear, it's what you listen to, it's what you write down, it's what you share online, it's what you agree to, you sign under, perhaps publish. So anything about communication is Mercury ruled. Mercury is also about the mind, about the logic, about rationalism, and that whole information based is from that. It's about the mind, the mental, thinking, writing, talking. This is why it rules over Gemini and Virgo in astrology, both signs. And these are very, highly strong communicative signs. But Mercury is also about commerce, about business. So this is also highly impactful for, online businesses. And paired with communication, as well as transport, which is also something that Mercury rules, you could have a lot of issues the coming 3 weeks regarding, your commercial buys or the commercial companies, anything commerce related to transport and information. That triangle is sure to have some difficulties. And I already notice it because, in my opinion, Mercury retrogrades come strong prior to the actual date. But we're in Mercury retrograde right now, July 18th. We're in it for the coming 3 weeks until August 11th. So, unfortunately, this is a huge holiday time for a lot of people, especially in the Northern Hemisphere. They go on holidays with their kids and all that. So this is especially if you go to multiple places within your holiday, if there's a lot of details you need to remember and track, you have to do it 3 times, 4 times, because Mercury's retrograde and things can suddenly change, okay? Mercury, Hermes, they are also a little bit tricky. They are a little bit witty. Mercury can just suddenly throw in a curveball. It's also kind of its humor. So expect things to almost go wrong. Yeah, you can almost expect that. If you're traveling, keep an eye out on your details. Yeah, my advice would be go earlier if you can to certain places. But Mercury is also about siblings, about close family, relatives. So, you know, nephews, aunts, uncles. So issues with siblings and close family could also come up. Um, it's also, you know, the third house as well as the sixth house in astrology. So it's everything nearby, okay? It's about your neighborhood. It's about short distance traveling that could experience issues. The sixth house is about work. So this is where the writing of things, writing it down is more serious. So if you're in these 3 weeks have to make an agreement and you have to like sign a document, you want to be really careful because you could miss important details, or maybe you sent the wrong details. You know, there's just information that is not straight because it's retro. So things are just not in our periphery. We're not focused. That's the problem, because Mercury normally is all about that information, and you know, because it's so mind oriented, so mental, it keeps them in that mind. But when it's retro, we can also forget a lot of details. We can also just not see or read correctly or write correctly. We could just make some mistakes. And sign con if you sign contracts and documents, the, you know, long-term effects are more serious. So that's where you know, it's advisable that you read a couple of times. Make sure, you know, go over with a lawyer or something, that you aren't missing any information, or that it's for your benefit, you know. The problem with Mercury retrogrades is also that the decisions you make during a retrograde is either going to be reviewed again, so it's going to come up again because it's in a retro phase. So because of the unclarity, it's going to come up again once it goes direct, probably. So make sure you, so that's one point. It can come back. Okay, the decisions you make can for some reason come back, or you could be just disappointed with the choices you made and just be very unfulfilled with decisions you made in those 3 weeks of the retrograde. And another thing is that any decision or activation or anything you do within those 3 weeks, especially related to communication, information, and the mind, is is short-lived, probably. So decisions made at retrograde don't have longevity, which could be okay. You could also use this for if you want things to be short or anything like that. But generally, we're just less wise, because that's Mercury. It's a wise sign, you know, it knows a lot. And so when it's retro, we're just, we're way more scattered in our knowledge, and the focus is off. We're missing pieces of the puzzle. So remember that. And you know, it's not always possible to put off everything until August 11th. That's not very realistic. But this is why astrology is important, so that when you know this is like when you know there's a storm, when you know there's rain, would you just go out, you know, with normal clothes, or would you take precaution? And this is what you need to do with a Mercury retrograde. Because it's about information and all that, it's also about home electronics, about small electronic devices, so your telephone, iPad, your computer, but also other electronic devices you have, these can experience problems. They can suddenly break down, they can suddenly close off. This is why with the Mercury retrograde, you always need to push that save button more than you would like, because things can get really lost and just broken. So be careful, and that's also why during a Mercury retrograde, it's not advisable to buy something that's expensive, or just know that it would be short-lived because of retrograde, or it's just not advisable. But the choice is yours always. But the Mercury retrograde this year, right now in the summer in the northern hemisphere, occurs in the Leo sign. Now this is of course really important to explore. It occurs at 15 degrees of Leo, which is actually a world point, which means that this Mercury retrograde is really packing a punch and might really be noticed on the world collective level Friday the 18th of July. So what is Leo about? Well, energetically, it is bold, it is dramatic, it is noticeable, it is expressive, it is about leadership, courage, bravery. It's about artistic expression as well. It's about taking risks. It's very energetic. Fire sign, so it's of course very active. This could even be about sports and children and your inner child. But Leo always rules over, the leaders in the world, the kings and queens, the stars, the celebrities. So the sportsmen, so keep an eye out on those people, because Mercury can also bring up scandals, okay? So unpleasant information can come out, especially because it's going to work during these 3 weeks, though at the end tail in August, it's going to work with an opposition to Pluto, and that's going to expose a lot of things as well. But it starts at 15 degrees of Leo, which is that world point. So it was also actually the midpoint in fixed stars is also potentially earthquake or explosions, volcano disruptional energy as well. So or perhaps big fires, because it's a fire energy. So be careful with that as well. July 18th, when the Mercury retrograde starts, the moon is in Taurus, square this Mercury in a day or so. But the energy is more laid back, more calm, and this is good for the retrograde period, because retro always means slowing down and reflecting, right? Reconsidering, going over old situations, old experiences, old projects that need to be reviewed, that need to be thought about, and perhaps learn a lesson from it, or improve your own situation through that lesson, probably. So the moon is in Taurus, and that would normally indicate that the 3 weeks of Mercury in retrograde have a Taurus moon vibe. The moon loves to be in Taurus, so it should give us a lot more patience, resilience, and calmness that could benefit this Mercury retrograde. And the only aspect, although really, really strong, is a sextile to Venus in Gemini, which is, where, of course, Mercury's at home. It would indicate that a lot of these reflections are about the Venusian topics, and it's very much in the mind. So it's either what you are thinking, your mental patterns about the Venetian topics, or you're going to receive literal information about it. So not just your thoughts and behavioral patterns, but just someone reaching out, or you know, important pieces of information you're going to encounter. Maybe you're going to read about it, maybe there's some therapy involved, whatever it is. The Venus topics are, of course, about love and relationships, as well as finances and self-esteem. It seems that the Mercury retrograde in Leo, which is potentially also about romance, the heart, love, that it seems a lot of it is about thinking about relationships and thinking about the heart and what does give you pleasure or what hasn't, and that there is some change that requires your input. So there's a lot of reflection on the relationship aspect of your life, um, your self-esteem, and your finances. These are interrelated as the Venetian topics. And so Mercury's really going over that, it seems. So it requires something you need to do, either therapy about these topics or just really contemplating a lot about it. Or, like I said, someone else taking action for you or mentioning something to you. This could be where exes reach out, right? Or yeah, anything like that. But like I said, when Mercury goes retrograde, it's also not necessarily the best choice to get back together or anything like that. Although maybe something needs to be resolved, and you will know that it is short-lived. So, you know. But it seems that we're thinking a lot about what is about the heart, about the love, and it can come out really dramatically because that's the Leo way, and it needs to be as controversial as dark and light. Like that contrast needs to be really big, and that makes it dramatic, right? So um this could also be, and I've experienced this myself, that you really express um like what you don't want, and maybe you're a bit dramatic about it, and really setting some of these boundaries um, about your self-esteem, for your self-love, for, you know, to make that loving relationship healthily possible. July 24th, we have a new moon in Leo. That's a very plutonic new moon. That's, of course, a separate video, but this Mercury retrograde is related to that. Then by August 1st, at midnight GMT, we have a Mercury cazimi. It's called an inferior cazimi when Mercury's retrograde and meeting the sun. This is really important. It happens a couple of times a year, where, you know, Mercury's blasted by the light of the sun, so it receives a lot of information. Our mind is on fire that day, August 1st. We're receiving great insights, aha moments, probably about the past because Mercury's retrograde. And this could be in Leo about past loves or past passions, or, you know, yeah, something that didn't work out or didn't, but did speak to the heart or something. There is some message here that we need to take forward with. It occurs, oddly enough, exactly at 9 degrees of Leo, which is a Sagittarius degree. So if you have anything at 9 degrees of Leo, this is a very important day for you, or 9 degrees of Scorpio, or 9 degrees of Aquarius, or 9 degrees of Taurus. This is really, really relevant. So that day, according to where those houses are in your chart, those house topics will be highlighted at the 9-degree point of the fixed signs. But of course, the fire signs will get a lot of bursts of energy, which is 9 degrees of Sagittarius or 9 degrees of Aries. So just an interesting day to track what you're thinking or what kind of information is coming to you that can really benefit you. These are cosmic insights that are of great value. So remember that. Um, you know, what's so interesting with astrology is you need to track it yourself. So write these dates down, you know, write down when Mercury retrograde starts, when it ends, and when this Cosimius, which is August 1st, this new moon occurs at July 24th. So track those and really see how astrology is actually working in your life. And this is also a great way, of course, to learn astrology. And to know your own chart, because that's ultimately what's going on here. No astrologer can look at your chart all the time. So this is why astrology is going to change a lot too, right? It's going to be very normal to track, to know your own chart, because no one can do that for you. That's very that's very impossible. Maybe AI and like digital stuff can do that, but there's no, like, you need to know your own chart because it's you. That's you. That's what you're here for. So be more in tune with your own chart, learn your own chart. This is why I make these videos with all this massive information, so you could apply it to your own chart and really be self-aware, which is apparently what this Mercury retrograde specifically is working with as well, because of that sextile to Venus, right, at the start, and July 18th, that we're really, it's really about getting to know ourselves at that heart level with the love we have for ourselves. And astrology is a big part of that, because if you know your own chart and you can track it and like become so much more self-aware, you know what you need to do and what you not need to do. So it's like a life coach. It tells you, it gives you insights into direction, right? Where to go, what to do, what not to do. And it's just being really more aligned with yourself. That's what it is about. So when we move in time, by the end of the retrograde, which ends at August 11th at 4 degrees of Leo, it's of course in opposition to Pluto. And like I said, that last, you know, that last week of the retrograde, it's going to basically oppose Pluto. And so, you know, from August on, there could be a lot of exposés, things coming out, really destructive information about either leaders, celebrities, those in charge, you know, sportsmen, because of the Leo energy. It could also be within yourself, you know, confidence bursts, really getting to know yourself like on that deep level, really being aware of your boundaries, your uniqueness, because Pluto is an Aquarius, so it's really going to demand more authentic expression of yourself and everyone else. It's going to demand equalism, you know, equal rights. Nobody, it's over the time where we used to abuse and manipulate people into certain situations. But it's going to happen through a lot of exposés, right? A lot of things coming to light, a lot of information that might be very unpleasant in your personal life, but also, of course, you know, in the news and all that. So that should be interesting. So when the retrograde ends August 11th, Mercury makes such an interesting pattern. It's making a mystical rectangle, which is made of two opposition. Well, one is that opposition to Pluto that I mentioned. The other opposition is that Mars is at 2 degrees of Libra, opposing Saturn and Neptune in Aries, who are both retrograde at that point. So these two oppositions are then making 2 sextiles and 2 trines. So it is difficult. 2 oppositions is being pulled into basically 4 different directions. But then there's a lot of ease around it. So it's mystical, like the name it is. So there's like a really good, pleasant solution to the discomfort, basically. And so this could mean that some of these exposés, personally and collectively, are going to really change your direction in life. And I would then look at, well, you can look at where all these points are in your own chart: the 4 degrees of Leo, the 2 degrees of Libra, the 2 degrees of Aquarius, and 1 degrees of Aries. But I feel that because it's the Mars is opposing Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which are cardinal signs, which is about direction, I feel that it's going to change that direction we're in. So it's going to change how we move forward. So I feel that looking at the 2 degrees of Libra and the 2 degrees of Aries in your chart seems to be the place of greatest change on August 11th. But of course, this is a good indication that it's not just opposing Pluto at the end in August, it's also then trining that huge change momentum of Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries. Now, these both planets are retrograde, so Saturn is about those boundaries, and is also in a reflective mode. So we're really thinking about our confidence, our inner leadership, and really noticing those boundaries we have. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. This is out of my life. That I'm never doing again. And so there's the reflection of the Mercury retrograde is a lot about those boundaries, because it's related to confidence, you know, putting yourself first, honoring your no-nos. So what are you ready to say no to? And Saturn is going to help you with that as well. So the Neptune retro is going to bring us a lot more clarity, so that's good. We're, you know, bursting the illusion. We're seeing through the lies. We're more easily looking into that dark that Pluto is exposing. We're not afraid of it anymore as well. You know, at one hand, Saturn retrograde can really do bring up some of the intense fears we maybe secretly have. But at the end of the day, especially in Aries, it's about overcoming the fears to become fearless. We're really battling in an easy way, because it's a trine. Mentally, we're battling this, on the one hand, no-nos, and then the boundaries, right? And then just the confidence, the inner leadership to step out and change our moves, change our goals, right? In the autumn season, both these planets, Saturn and Neptune, are going to go back into Pisces for the last time. It's really important before that happens. It's interesting. Before that happens, we have this retrograde, which is about building all that, you know, fierce confidence and, well, prioritizing yourself and knowing your new goal in life, new karma. But we're not done completely. We still have to swim some really deep waters in the autumn season. That's the Mercury retrograde. It's about putting yourself first. It's about expressing your boundaries to other people. It's about being bold and brave in your own uniqueness, and reflecting on situations that did not have that, because the reflection, the reconsideration will give you, you know, golden pieces of the puzzle that, when direct after August 11th, you can really implement, so you can change your behavior and therefore change the outcome. So information is really key the coming 3 weeks. Communication is something to watch out. And so it's extreme, it's bold, it's extravagant. You know, people might roar from left and right. It's an intense energy with a fixed sign like this, but don't let anything dim your shine, okay? Radiate, illuminate yourself, and persevere. Don't let anyone bring you down. This is not about that. This is where you learn how to rise.